nearly 800 years, the world's greatest conqueror Genghis Khan does not want his tomb to be found. It is hidden away from the rest of the world. During his life, he conquered lands from the Pacific Ocean to the heartland of Europe, yet in death he chose to remain in solitude. There are several theories for his death. Legend says that the army which tried to bury him were killed by another group of soldiers who later took their own life. It is said that a river was devoted over his tomb such that nobody will ever find it. A forest was constructed in that region and 10,000 horses trampled across his tomb such that never his tomb will be found. Now let's dive into the history of Genghis Khan's tomb and why people don't want it to be found. Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, Everything with Dr. James. Today we are going to be dealing with the hidden truth and the legend behind Genghis Khan's tomb. To understand the significance of Genghis Khan's tomb, let's go about the man himself. Genghis Khan was born in the year 1162 in the harsh lands of Mongolia near the mountain Barka Khaldun. His birth name was Temujin. At his very young age, his father was poisoned by a rival clan members, after which his own clan abandoned him. Through hardships he grew, and in military he grew up in ranks. In Mongolia they were separated into different clans and they were fighting against each other. Through sheer hard work, determination, courage and diplomacy, Genghis Khan was able to unite all the clan members. In 1206, the heads of all the clans joined together and proclaimed that Temujin is their leader, and they gave him the name Genghis Khan, which means universal ruler of the Mongolia. Under him, the Mongolian kingdom spread like wildfire. They spread from east to west. This map shows the true extent of the King Genghis Khan's kingdom. It extended from the Pacific Ocean to the heartland of Europe. But one country which he could never capture was India. Because of the Himalayan ranges, he couldn't cross that to enter into India. And on the other side, as we can see, the Thar desert was present, because of which he couldn't cross that and come into India. This map shows the extent to which Genghis Khan's influence was there during his lifetime. Cities were annihilated. People who resisted him were killed. So the way in which they captured all this area was brutal. After they captured it, they surprisingly, in their huge kingdom, they had good law and order. They had a law which was called Yasa, which everybody had to follow. They even had a postal service called Yam. This was one of the first kingdoms which practiced religious tolerance. People were able to practice whichever religion they want, be it Muslims, Christians or Buddhism. By 1227, Genghis Khan was the undisputed leader of Mongolia. He had captured huge amounts of land. He was in his mid-60s, which is old according to his time, but still he was leading military campaigns. At that time, he was trying to capture the kingdom of Xia, which is situated in present-day northwestern China. He was marching towards them. They were in the final stages of surrender, but Genghis Khan won't live up to seeing their victory. He fell to his death. There are several theories which say how he died. The first theory they say is Genghis Khan fell from his horse and he died. Second theory is a disease called typhus took him. And third theory, which was spread by the rival gang members and which is not verified, is that he was killed by the Tanjut princess. In the book, The History of the Mongols, the death of Genghis Khan is given very vaguely. They just say that in 1227, Genghis Khan ascended to heaven. The main reason why the cause of his death or the news of his death did not spread a very long time was because they did not want other empires to think that the Mongolian Empire does not now have a leader and they can be easily captured. To prevent that and to prevent the Xia kingdom to know of his death, Genghis Khan had specific orders to his commanders to not tell about his death to anyone and not know about his burial site. He also returned to the land in solitude because that was his wish. The earth gave him everything and now he wanted to rest in solitude and peace. and his commanders will go in great lengths to make his final wishes to come true. The plan to bury Genghis Khan's body was one of the most elaborate and well executed funeral operations in the history of the world. As written decades later by Marco Polo and Rashid al-Din, the procession to take back Genghis Khan's body from China to Mongolia was in a river of blood. Whoever tried to come into contact with this funeral procession was killed, so that the news of Genghis Khan's death is not known to anybody. Once the tomb site was reached, a deep hole was dug, and in accordance to Mongolian traditions, a lot of gold, silver and jewelries were buried along with Genghis Khan, so that the dead can have a ransom in their afterlife. The funeral procedures were completed. The elaborate process to hide Genghis Khan's tomb started. Around 10,000 soldiers had gone to bury Genghis Khan's body. They were killed by another group of soldiers so that nobody knows the site of Genghis Khan's burial. This group which killed the soldiers were also killed. After which it is said that a river was redirected to flow over Genghis Khan's tomb, and a lot of trees were constructed in that area so that Genghis Khan's burial site is not known to anyone. Legend says that 10,000 horses were trampled across his burial site, such that his burial site will not be known to anyone. But everybody will be thinking, why this secrecy? This secrecy lies in the Mongolian culture that a dead must rest in solitude and that he must not be disturbed, as the purity of the soul will be affected and his life in the afterlife time will be affected if his burial site is disturbed. Genghis Khan, being a fierce follower of Tengrism, which advocated the same, that a dead must rest in solitude, he wanted his burial site to be a secret. Another plausible reason might be that if his enemies come to know about his burial site, then they will come there to destroy it. This could be the reasons why Genghis Khan wanted his burial site to remain a secret. For centuries, searching for Genghis Khan's tomb was a fool's errand. There were several theories to say where he was buried. The first theory, which says that Genghis Khan was buried in the Khenti mountain regions of Mongolia. This is where his birthplace area of the Burqa Khaldun mountains is located. This is where Genghis Khan stood in isolation when he was abandoned by his own clan after his father's death, and he gathered his first followers. There was an area in the Burqa Khaldun mountains which was called as Ikkurig. This Mongolian term translates to Great Taboo or Great Forbidden Area. This area was restricted to many people during the lifetime of Genghis Khan only, and it was designated as sacred, and the entry was strictly forbidden to anyone except the Mongol royal family. It is traditionally guarded by the Darkad tribe, who are exempted from taxes and military services, further emphasizing its importance. And it is said that this Burqa Khaldun's area's Ikkorig region is the most possible site where Genghis Khan might be buried, but this is yet still not proven. The second theory is that Genghis Khan died in the Ordos region of China, because that time he was waging a war against the Shia kingdom, and he did not want the Shia people to know that he died, because if they come to know that the king has died, they will not surrender. Genghis Khan couldn't be carried from China to Mongolia because that time it was summer. And in this harsh heat and that landscape, it is difficult to carry his body. So they buried him in the Ordos region of China only. This can be corroborated by the fact that a Genghis Khan memorial is constructed in that Ordos region. Though it is not the burial site, this is just built in memory of Genghis Khan and the man he was. The stunning fact is the lack of written history. In the book, The Secret History of Mongols, it is not written clearly where Genghis Khan was buried. This is because mainly the Mongols had a tradition of passing their history orally and not in the written format. So most probably the history of Genghis Khan's tomb could have been passed on from generation to generation among a select group of people, and it was still not written because they were scared that the book can be stolen and people can come to know Genghis Khan's burial site, and eventually this oral tradition also faded. Now it has become a legend. For centuries, Genghis Khan's burial site remained a legend and people couldn't find it. Now comes the 20th and 21st century where new technology came in and there was a possibility we could find Genghis Khan's tomb. After the fall of the Soviet Union in the early 90s, a project was launched which was called Valley of the Khans project, which was headed by the University of San Diego, the Mongolian Institute of Science and National Geographic. An interesting thing about this project was it was a crowd-funded project such that many volunteers were told to put in money, and thousands of people across the world who were fascinated by Genghis Khan's burial site put in money, and the images were taken using ground penetrating radar and drones, and thousands of square kilometers were marked. They did a non-invasive approach as they did not want to dig the grounds in this area, as it was a very sacred area of the Mongols and digging was against their cultural beliefs. So the search for Genghis Khan's body was done by thousands of amateur archaeologists. They mapped the area in that Burqa Khaldun and they found out potential sites of Genghis Khan's burial. But if somebody doesn't want something to be found, they won't leave any mark there. So till now, though there have been speculations that Genghis Khan could be buried here, there, and they've identified some potential sites, they have not yet still found the actual site of Genghis Khan's burial. Now coming to the ethical question, should Genghis Khan's tomb be found? On one hand, archaeologists argue that finding Genghis Khan's tomb will open a treasure trove of information about the life of Mongols, their traditions, and more insights into the life of the man himself, Genghis Khan. On the other hand, the Mongolians believe that Genghis Khan's spirit even guards them even today. He was the father of the nation. He is the king of their nation who protected them. So they think that disturbing his tomb will put an unending curse on Mongolia and they don't want it to be found. In accordance to that, the Mongolian government has made the lands of Burqa Khaldun mountains sacred and digging there is banned and illegal. Now there is a cultural belief in Mongolia that if you try to open any tomb of the Mongol, it will disturb their spirit and it will put an unending curse on the person who's trying to open it. There is a famous story in history. In 1941, a team of German archaeologists tried to open the tomb of King Tamerlane in Mongolia. Hours later, Operation Barbarossa, Hitler's invasion of Soviet Union, started and he failed miserably there. It is said that opening King Tamerlane's tomb made the spirits angry and because of which only Hitler failed. I have a link in the description below about this Operation Barbarossa. If you are interested, you can go and see how the Operation Barbarossa went. Now coming to the man himself, Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan did not want his tomb to be found. Then why should we search for it? His legacy has increased because of the secrecy of this tomb, and the Mongols also don't want the Genghis Khan's tomb to be found. Though the ethical question of history, we need to document our history and know more about historical traditions is there, respecting somebody's cultural belief is as important as finding history and documenting it. Will the tomb be ever found? Maybe a new technology might find it. Maybe a shift in the cultural traditions and people allow us to find it. Maybe somebody accidentally discovers it. But for now, it is better we respect the cultural tradition of the Mongols and let the man rest in peace. Do like, share and subscribe me for more interesting videos like this.